Hey guys, Belair here. This is a segment from the latest episode of the Need Boost podcast. We had the Bop Pops on. If you are a RLCS fan who is on Twitter, you almost certainly know about him. If you want to watch the full episode, look in the description below. It is currently on Spotify and Apple Podcast in a video format as well. So without further ado, let's get into a segment with Bop. We were talking when we were trying to plan before this podcast, like, there's so many things that we could talk about with Birmingham. And one of the big storylines for me is the teams and players that are not being represented here. We talked about the miracle runs from Gen GK, as it were,
Yeah.
and that eliminated some really strong teams like Space Station Gaming. We saw Nine Lives, Crash and Burn. On the other side, Ninjas in Pajamas, Gentlemates, who are kind of in their own box of torture there.
Yeah.
But there's all these players who are not going to be represented. And you had the brilliant idea of trying to do a draft of missed players. So the only rules I think we're establishing, and is it cool with you if we draft two teams and we'll go snake draft style? I think the only rule that we're establishing here is that each of our teams of three has to be different regions. So you can't have two North American players on
Yeah.
the same team. So
Yeah.
with that
Yeah.
as our framework, as our guest of honor, Bop, I would like to give you the first draft pick in our missed players draft.
Okay. Okay. In my opinion, I think there's a clear number one pick
A
for
clear
me,
number
at
one.
least. Clear number one pick. I gotta go with Itachi. I
Right?
gotta go with Itachi. I mean, for me, he's still like, I think on his day, he's still a top 10 player in the world. I think like the way he performed on that team with Nas, with Oski as well, I think that was a great team. And the fact they didn't make the major, I think it's just so insane. Like if they made the major, it's kind of funny. I was gonna predict an NIP versus SSG final at this major. That was like my original idea. I wanted to really predict that. I thought that'd be so fun. And then neither team made the major. I was like, oh, okay. So I think Itachi just the all around player. Like he is just like so good on every single front. I think like the way he was on KC back in the day with General Mace, like I was very surprised to see him off of General Mace after last season. I thought
Yeah.
that team still had a lot of potential. And I still think Itachi one of the best players in the world. I think for me, obvious number one pick.
I mean, you want to talk about buyer's remorse. Gentlemates have got to be kicking themselves for getting rid of Itachi.
Oh yeah.
Always makes his teammates better. I honestly still think, and it could be controversial, but if I had to build a team tomorrow around one of the Ninjas in Pajamas players, for me, it is still Itachi. Still one of the better players in the world. So I am jealous and also in agreement with you on your first pick here. You mentioned Space Station Gaming. I might circle back to them. Um, you know, one of the
A lot of good
ways
players.
I know, one of the ways I was thinking about approaching this is we know that there's a ton of North American and European talent, so maybe I'll grab one of like the other regions first because
Ooh.
there's less talent
Okay.
there. And
Yeah.
now that I've already talked my way through it, I think this is controversial, but I would like to go ahead and take Super Lucky. I still think
Ooh.
that he has a ton of talent. Last season, before Banana Head showed up, I still thought that he was the best player in the region. Of course, Banana Head is here on Wildcard, and we had the Scrims World players as well. But I still think that he is a player who has been there and done that. And this is a pick that I'm taking so that you don't take him. And then I can still find really good North American and European talent
Okay.
later in the draft is my
Okay.
strategy here. So I'm gonna go ahead and take Super Locky, and when I watch this back and edit the video, I'm sure that I'll regret it. But you have the second pick or the third
That's
pick.
a very yeah, that's a very interesting. But I didn't expect an OC player like that quick right there. Like, don't know. To be fair, if I picked an OC player, I would probably go with Super Lucky as well. I think he's extremely talented. I think for the past few seasons, he's always been like that kind of player that like might have missed a couple of lands, but like he's always at the top of OCE, especially stats wise, everything. Like he's a phenomenal player.
And my
So I
excuse is that he has one of the longest names. So when I looked at my list, he was right there looking right back at me.
okay,
So
okay,
shout out to
I
Super
like that.
Lucky for having a super long name.
Mm,
I think
yep.
I'm gonna try my best to
Mm.
have all the regions. I'm going to do a Sam and a Mina here in the future. So
Okay,
I'm locking up
okay,
my OCE right away.
okay.
And from the sounds of it, Bop, I probably could have picked him in the final round of the draft. I don't think that was a name on your board.
Most likely, I was
Uh,
not picking an OC player that quick for sure.
all right, who's your third pick?
Okay. Okay. I think I might go the opposite way of you. I might go to NA now.
Okay,
And I feel like, you mentioned 9 lives. I feel like I got to go with Kofor.
he's the
I
name I
think
should have picked.
Kofor,
He's the name I should have picked.
I think Kofor on his day, again, like I think he's like a top 3 player NA, honestly. Like, of course, you got energy, you got ultimates, you got these teams. But Kofor, the way he was playing on that 9 live squad, I think like he was the perfect teammate to pick up after they lost LJ.
Yeah,
And of course, at the end, they didn't make the major, but I think especially those first 2 regionals, they played really well. I think they got kind of unfortunate bracket, the third regional, and it was unfortunate with the way everything happened with Genji there. But I think Kofor, like, he's the kind of player we're going to see for the next few seasons, and he's always going to be at the top. I think, like, especially if he gets picked up by a team like an Energy in the future, like an Ultimate, someone he has 2 teammates that are definitely at his level. I think he's the kind of player that we're going to see win a LAN one day for sure. I think he's incredible.
he had huge shoes to fill as well with LJ slotting out. My fear about that team preseason was LJ was such a workhorse for them on the offensive end. Is Kofor going to be able to come in and do the same thing, or are we going to see more Hawks or Chicago? Kofor actually came in and filled the shoes perfectly. Like he has been an engine offensively, and he is a very, very clear number 2 pick in this draft. But I was just, it was a gift, Bob. That's what it was. I wanted to give you Kofor. Um,
Uh,
you know,
appreciate that.
let me a name like Reveal is standing out to me. Shopify Rebellion has some pieces that are very interesting. 100% Ascend. But you know what? Um, despite them missing out on the major, I want another player who has LAN experience, who has won at a high level, and they totally crashed and burned. But I'm gonna go ahead and take Seiko here, just
Okay.
because I think he's one of the only world champions that we have that have missed out here. So I want to
Mhm.
add that championship caliber to my roster. Can do it on both ends. Can play the game a lot
Mhm.
of different ways. And the gentlemate situation has been a huge stinker, but I still think that Seiko is a really talented player.
Okay. Do you think the Shadowmates team, if they make a roster move or not, do you think they could still make like the next major, maybe make Worlds?
It depends on what the move is. Like Eugen and Metzer are the names that we've heard so far.
Mhm.
I think that Eugen was awesome. Like that start point team were kind of
Mhm.
that like 6 to 8 range for me, and that's about
Yeah.
where they landed. But they looked a lot more potent than I thought they would. A part of that
Mhm.
was a Chronic showing more than I thought he still had in the tank at this point in his
Mhm.
career. But Eugen is just a force offensively. So if they bring him in and I get that they're keeping it open ended. If I was a gambling man, I think that he's probably going to be slotting in Radoson's spot. That
Mhm.
is a pretty strong team. I feel like they needed an extra little push on the offensive end, and Eugen is definitely that. To counteract
Mhm.
everything I just said, Europe is so
Yeah.
strong. Like Ninjas is still
Mhm.
waiting out there. We're gonna see what the rest of these, French players kind of fall into form here.
Mhm.
I know that Rusty's and Mozzarella are a duo out there. All
True.
of Ascend, like Juke, Nico. There's
Mhm.
another team that could kind of pop out here. 100% had a great split. So I
Mhm.
probably wouldn't bet on Gentlemates making a move to show up to a LAN here, but crazier things have happened.
Mhm. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think Seiko's actually a very good pick. I think he's one of those players where like the results don't speak to how good he is. I think he is still extremely talented. I think of course he is a little bit inconsistent at
Oh
times.
yeah.
There's times where it's like I have no idea what he's doing. But most of the time when he's playing well, I think his ceiling is extremely high. There's a reason why he's a world champion, there's a reason why he's a land champion. I think he's that kind of player where like I think he'll bounce back for sure. I
I
think like
agree.
especially like you said with like a Eugen and someone like that on the team, I think there'll be way more in that conversation for the major. And he's the kind of player again, if he makes the major, I think he's gonna do pretty well there as well. So I like that Seiko pick. I like that.
I'm
I'll be honest,
redeeming
I
this
didn't
super lucky pick a little
uh,
bit.
A little bit, a
You're
little
like,
bit.
this is great. Belleair's picking a bunch of people that I didn't even have on my list. This is like, you're
Wait, I
just gonna
didn't
get
have
to
Seiko. I
pick.
didn't have Super Lucky.
You're just gonna pick the top of your board and be like, all right, yeah, that was a great exercise. Okay, rounding out this first round of
Okay.
drafts here. Who is your third overall pick, fifth in the draft?
Okay, okay. So are we doing this? Is this like one team now? These three players that I'm picking here, is that one team and then
The
it'll be
reason that
another
I
team?
was taking a little bit to get through my sentence is I was thinking to myself, how are we going to do this? I actually like the idea of we can just draft six and then build them however we want.
Okay,
So
okay,
you can just cash all these players and then we can
okay.
build after the fact.
Yeah. Okay, okay. Now let's see. Who do I want to take? Now, I think there's two players here from Mina
Hmm.
that I was very interested in. I was
Ooh.
gonna see like if you took one before, I'll take the other one. I think both Dr. Noan and Nush are like these two players in Mina that are on the up and up,
Hmm.
and I think they're gonna be the kind of players that like we're gonna see at a land soon. Not yet with how like Twisted Minds everything, but like one day soon I think we're gonna see them at a land. I think they're both extremely talented. I'm gonna take Dr. Noan for me, but honestly you could take either one. I think both are extremely talented. And they're just kind of players, like I said, like they're young, they're hungry. And we saw them last season where they had a couple good wins this season. They're actually in that major contention spot. And I think as the season goes on, next couple of seasons go on, I think we'll see them for sure popping off. And I think like, hey, this could be the next Rawaz Khalirs right here. Of course, they're not brothers, but I think they're a great duo.
Really dangerous duo. I mean, Team Rock last season with Ops was exciting, and they were all so young. And then now the Alcatia experiment has not gone as anticipated. I would say
Yeah.
Tox maybe a little bit out of shape that people can't wake up for all of their main events on time. But
Yeah,
Doctor
yeah.
Known, great shout, great pickup. If there was not the Twisted Minds monster there, they're pretty clearly the third best team here in my eyes, despite the results. Um, you know, I'm glad that we're doing it this way. You've kind of given me a mulligan that allowing me to say
Yeah.
we're going to build the teams afterwards because now my super lucky
Okay.
pick doesn't look as bad. You know,
Not as bad. Not as
I
bad.
can put him down into the ranks and let me take a player who I probably should have taken earlier in the draft. Let me grab Oski here.
Mm.
Still hanging around. Um, a shooter, an excellent striker, somebody who's performed
Mm.
well at these LAN events. So I'm gonna bring him into the club.
Okay. Okay. Very interesting. So which regions have you gone through now?
So I have taken two EU, Seiko and Oski, and then I have an
Mm.
OCE, and I guess that kind of means that I cheated on what we're trying to do here. Maybe it's like one player per team. You know what? Let me actually let me
Hmm.
pivot, and you're keeping me honest here. Let me scratch out Oski, and
Okay.
let me stick
Okay.
in Mina with you. And
Hmm.
instead of taking Nush, I'm gonna go Mawson. Experience matters to me. He's been here
Mm.
before with Rule One, um,
Okay.
so I'm gonna take Mawson off the board for my Mina pick.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, he's like one of those kind of players that I do want to see succeed as well. I felt like he was always really good with Rawaz and Clears. I felt like at times he was even like better than them at certain moments.
Hmm.
And then unfortunately he kind of got the short end of the stick and he hasn't seen the same success since then. But he's always been in like that third, fourth range in Mina. So I would love to see him make a land again in the future.
Can you imagine if Rawas and Colliers came in at the same time but weren't twins and were on two different teams? Like what that would do for like the Mina landscape? Like
Hmm.
a team building around
Hmm.
Colliers, a team building around Rawas. It'd be super exciting, and Mawson would probably still be in the mix, just
Hmm.
because of his talent. At least somebody they would be considering. So I have
Yeah.
taken OCE Europe, scratched out my cheat for Europe 2, added
Hmm.
Mawson from Mina, OCE Europe Mina. You have gone EU in a Mina. Where are you headed next?
I think I kind of gotta go down the line. I gotta go Sam next right here.
Mm-hmm.
And so let me think. So I got a couple strong players. I got Itachi, Kofor, Dr. No one. I think Itachi is a good leader.
Yep.
I think hmm, I think I'm gonna go for a bit more of a risky pick. I would say I'm gonna go with the Wisty right
Ooh,
here.
okay.
I feel like Wisty is again. I kind of mentioned this so many times now. Another one of those up and coming players that I like seeing his ones ability quite a lot. I watched a little bit of the Sam ones tourney that happened, and to me, I felt like he lost to the two best players. He lost to Swift and Yan. I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, and I think he's one of those players where it's like, again, if he gets picked up by one of these top two teams in Sam, like he's gonna elevate his performance like crazy and always be performing at the top. So I like Wisty a lot. I think we're gonna see him succeed quite a lot in the future.
We had the team for a moment there where it was Diaz and Wisty alongside Royales, and
Mhm. Oh
he
yeah.
must be kicking himself for letting that opportunity leave. Now he's like, look at these guys.
Uh,
Although I will say Novus Avi actually looked pretty good. Kaio, the
yeah.
resurgence, maybe Royales is like a spark plug here,
Mhm.
but Wisty is a
Yeah.
good pick. Um,
Mhm.
Probably one of the um, hottest commodities out of Sam right now for like an up
Mhm.
and comer. So
Yeah.
I am definitely not mad at the pick. I still have Sam to go as well. I also have North
Mhm.
America. Um,
Okay.
where am I going to go? Looking at my board here, there's so many North
Mhm.
American players. I think I could probably grab one in a second. You just took
Yeah.
Sam, so let me close it out. A
Mhm.
couple names floating around. Suko is
Mhm.
somebody who has had a pretty good split here
Mhm.
so far. I
Oh yeah.
haven't seen enough to know, and I don't know
Mhm.
if it's coming through and how I'm drafting. But the LAN experience is an important factor for
Mhm.
me. And with that being
Okay.
said, I'm thinking about a Corinthians player. I'm looking at Godfidence. Um, Astramic
Mhm.
is a player I've always loved, but he might be
Oh
a little
yeah.
bit over the hill there on his ability. Let me go ahead and get somebody who I know is going to bring um, that presence, that vocal
Mhm.
nature to kind of rally people around him at a LAN. I'm going to go ahead and
Mhm.
take Brad. I think that he is somebody who
Cool.
you want in your foxhole if you're late into one of these Swiss rounds here. Isn't going to be the most talented player
Mhm.
that I draft, but I think his presence and
Mhm.
his personality are big adds to any
Mhm.
team he's a part of.
Okay. I like that. I like that. Okay, interesting.
You're
Yeah,
like,
you definitely have a
man,
more of a
I'm crushing this draft. This is a layup, man.
no, but you got one of those sleeper teams right there. Like it's very interesting. A lot of sleeper picks right
I'm
there.
drafting the nobody believes in us all stars, Bob. That's what this whole experiment is. This is guys who were sitting at home, they're having a
Mm,
drink, they see they get drafted, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't even know that I
really?
had the potential to be drafted." So they're going to be
Let's
excited to be into the clubhouse, and
oh
get
yeah,
this
oh yeah.
opportunity.
They're
Um,
happy to be there, you know.
they're just happy to be here. You still have OCE and some of our expansion regions here with APAC and
Mm,
SSA.
okay, okay. So do we have a rule on, let's say it's like an EU player in OCE or something like that. Are you allowed to draft that player
Am I
or no?
allowed to
What are
draft
we saying?
Raziers? What's the rules on that? No, I think that that's fair. Whatever region they are playing in currently.
Mm, okay, okay. That's
So
interesting.
Raziers would be available as just totally as an example. Just
Just an
completely,
example,
yeah,
yeah.
just hypothetical.
Hypothetical, hypothetical. I think I might actually go with one of his teammates. I can't lie. I think I might grab Hunter.
Well, actually, I'm misspeaking because Chiefs is actually here. They snuck in.
Oh
Yeah.
wait, oh wait,
So
oh my God.
I
Okay.
you
Oh
you
yeah.
said it and you were so confident that I was just like, yeah, you could.
Oh
So
wait. Oh wow.
we still got we still have Scrims World floating around out there. We still
Okay.
have Amphis and Kaka from TSM,
Yeah.
Pups, Oi Oi, some of those teams.
I low-key forgot that Chiefs made it in. Okay.
Yeah. I almost said a name
Mm.
out loud, but if I say it, I think you'll take him. So I'm going to be quiet.
Let me think. Okay. Okay. So okay, a couple. You already have an OC pick. So a couple players coming to mind. I think Lunar is probably very high up there for me
Yep.
with that like Scrims World roster. I like how Lunar's been playing.
Lunar
And
formerly
then
retired, came back, won a grand
pretty incredible.
finals. Hey, what a career arc.
pretty incredible. I mean, Beast Mode did it as well. He kind of retired for a second, and
He
he came back,
he
and
he,
then
he cheat retired. He was like, I don't want to be on this team anymore. I'm retiring. We
I
won't.
respect that.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, honestly, I'm gonna take Lunar. I think Lunar kind of again, kind of a little bit of a sleeper pick, but I think that team right there is like very underrated. And
Oh
like,
yeah.
what's the new roster gonna be again with that power team?
I didn't
Yeah,
know that he was formally on the move because I know that they got rid of what it's Caleb and Lunar, and then Laxon is the one who got shipped off.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
is there a rumor on the other side of that? Are they bringing somebody in?
I'm not 100% sure if anything's like official yet, yeah. But like I think it'll be interesting to see who they do pick up. But I think Lunar for me was like my favorite player watching that team. And also he's like pretty active on Twitter, so I see a lot of his tweets, so he's kind of like a funny guy. I like seeing that. So I'm a snag Lunar there.
Yeah, hey, you're building your organization. Like you want to have somebody who has an online presence to kind of bring eyes to your brand. This
Exactly.
is a full scope
Hmm.
Bob
Oh yeah.
exercise. We're getting it from all
100%.
angles. Um,
100%. 100%.
all right, so where am I gonna go? I still have North America floating around out there.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
there's so many names that I think I'm actually gonna use some of your talking time to kind of get my ducks in a row on that. So let me think. APAC or SSA. Um, I could, and I might circle back to snagging somebody like to die for, who has
Mm.
been there and done that for SSA. I'm also thinking about APAC, where you could grab a player like Kevin. If I want the brand recognition, I could grab
Oh yeah.
Realize from Kenotrope and bring
That's
in
true.
millions of viewers immediately.
Oh,
Uh,
without a doubt.
but you know what? I think I am going to um, go ahead and just take to die for here. I think he's been the best player
Mm.
historically for SSA the whole time over.
Okay.
Somebody who has always impressed, has been a leader at every stop, and I think whichever of my two teams I'm going to put him on, he is going to bring some
Mhm.
scoring, but also happily slot into the ancillary role that I give him here. So you are
Mhm.
into your final pick.
Okay.
You still have who? SSA and APAC here for you.
SSA and APAC. Okay. I think you might have mentioned him. I think I got to go with Kevin.
Great shout.
And, once again, we're going with the content route right there. People recognize him right there. Kevin, I think I first saw him in a Sunless Con video a few years
Oh
ago.
yeah.
And then, yeah, since then, I've always been a fan of Kevin. I think he's like a very funny guy. And he's also just like actually really good at the game as well.
Yes.
So I'm
Is
gonna take Kevin right there.
is he was that Sunless video? That wasn't the Hezbollah flip, was it?
I think it was.
That
Yeah, it
was
was that.
him showing
Yeah.
off
Yeah,
the
the
yeah.
Bismillah flick
The
and everything.
Bismillah, thank
Yeah.
you. Hezbollah, the short guy who's
Oh yeah.
part of the UFC or whatever. Kevin,
Yeah.
great pick to round out the draft here.
Mhm.
And I now am back to North America. Um,
Ooh.
lay of the land, like there's a lot of directions I could go. I could go with a
Mhm.
savvy veteran, Chicago Hoxer. Calm is still there. Justin, of course.
Mhm.
I could go a newer direction with a wavy 5 up, Space Station
Mhm.
Gaming, Talk, two-piece kind of
Mhm.
route.
Yeah.
Looking at my rosters here, I think scoring is always an asset, something that you
True.
want to bring to the table. Um,
Uh,
let me get one of my favorite young players here and draft my first player who hasn't been to a land previously in Reveal, who
nice.
I
Okay.
think has had two excellent splits. There was the name recognition with Snowman and Frosty last season. Everybody loves Scribbles because he's such a grinder. But I think
Mhm.
Reveal is arguably had the best career of those three players so far.
I agree.
So I'm
Yeah.
going to take him from North America. And now the draft's looking a little better. The super lucky pick isn't
Yeah.
hurting me too bad. So um,
Mhm.
team building
Okay.
phase. Um,
That's interesting.
how do you
Okay.
think you're gonna set these up? Who are your two foundational
Huh.
pieces that you're building around?
Oof. Okay. So we're assuming these are two separate teams then?
Yes,
Two separate teams. Okay. So I feel
six
like
players, two teams.
So do I want to go the route where I just throw the three best players on one team, or do I actually like?
I'm gonna go the opposite route. I'm gonna try and build two equally competitive
Okay,
teams.
okay. I like this. Okay, wait. Let me write this down a little bit. I like that reveal pick, by the way. He was my second pick from
Nice.
NA, so I like that a lot. I feel like he's the kind of player that's like extremely consistent. I feel like Scribbles, Frosty, they might have higher peaks, but reveal is just I feel like you always know what he's gonna get from him. He's always really good. I feel like he's gonna be around for a long time.
I
So,
agree. He is the oldest of the three, but he's still young. They're all, kind of
uh,
at that stage. I if I would have had more picks, like there's a lot of players in North America that I think deserve shouts. Wavy five up, like I said. Um,
mm,
Talk is an up and coming player, but I feel good about who I snagged. Um,
yeah,
okay, so I'm assuming one of your foundational pieces here is going to be Itachi
I
on
will
one of
say
them.
yes. Yeah, for sure.
And then who is the first player that you're putting on the other team? I think the way I'm going to do it is try and build like talent down. So like for
Yeah.
example, I think Seiko is my most talented draft asset, so I'm going to put him on one team and then
Okay.
on the other side geez, I don't know which direction I'm going to go here. Um let me go ahead and take To Die for my second team, just because I feel like it's pretty easy to
Okay.
build around him.
That's pretty fair. Okay. I think yeah, I'm probably gonna build around Itachi and build around Kofor.
Okay.
I feel like that makes sense.
So Itachi, you know that you can kind of put some talent around him that will be elevated offensively.
Yeah.
Kofor is a player who you can kind of build around with like some defense and things like that. So
Yeah.
um, Seiko, I think the thing that he lacks the most is kind of that he's very stoic. He's not very emotional.
Mm.
And I feel
Mm.
like you need a vocal leader next to him. So I'm going to go ahead and
Yeah.
put Brad on my Seiko roster. Um,
Okay.
who are you going to put next to Itachi or Kofor?
Okay. So I think with Kofor, I feel like if I'm trying to get one team that I think is gonna be having a lot of fun, laughing a lot, I'm gonna put Kevin on that team,
All
and I
right.
think I'm also gonna slot Lunar on that team as well.
It's a good squad.
Uh,
You got Kevin
I think
Kofor,
that's
the K alliteration.
oh yeah,
I like
oh
that
yeah.
squad a lot. And then that means that you're going to have Itachi alongside Wisty, which I think works out perfectly. Wisty, a player
Mm.
who can find his own space. Itachi's very good at putting his teammates into advantageous positions. And then
Yeah.
Dr. Known is this just kind of X factor. I
Mm.
like your squads quite a bit. And then let me go ahead and
Um,
finish out this exercise quickly. I'm going to go one team that's like all like I'm going to put To Die For with Mawson, and then I'm going to put Super Lucky
ooh,
on that roster as kind of my
okay.
lead banana offensively. And then that leaves
Yeah,
me with Seiko, Brad, and then Reveal as this kind of just like do your thing, man.
that's a good team right there. Okay.
I think that team could be sniffing around a top eight if they were to make Birmingham. I think that's probably my favorite of the two
Mm,
squads. Which team do you like more out of yours?
okay. I mean, talent-wise, I have to go with the Itachi Dr. No and Wisty team. I think that's definitely a squad, especially with Itachi, like we mentioned, like he's a great leader right there.
Yeah.
And if he could like bring up two young guns like Dr. No and Wisty, he could learn how to play around them like the way he's doing right now with Nas and Oski. I mean, I think that team again has a lot of potential for like a top eight again at a major. And I think Kofor, Kevin, Lunar. I just want to hear those comms. I think those comms will be amazing. So
That com video is instant watch. You got to be there.